you running an illegal gambling ring out here in the alley? If so, I want in.
Nah, just practicing my spooning.
That doesn't sound legal.
No. I watched Mystery Men, and one of the superheroes in that throws utensils, so I wanted to give it a try.
Ooh, knife throwing. Let me try.
No, again, just spoons and forks.
No knives?
Yeah, the character thought they would be too violent or something, but I'm a genius, so I've been using sporks. My superhero name is going to be the Sporker.
The Sporker? You're gonna go around sporking your foes? I bet the Joker would love to get sporked by Batman.
Shit, you're right. Ooh, that would be so easy to get made fun of for. Well, you have any ideas for any gimmicks?
You could just carry a gun and get some wings.
I'm not sure I follow.
Gundan Wing.
I hate you.
Welcome to Gate Crashers, a podcast dedicated to kicking open the door to your next favorite thing. Our mission, our creed, our code is this: to make all things more approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a universe that you'll fall in love with. Hello, everyone. My name is Sid. I go by they, them, she, her, and I'm here to talk to you about some cool things today.
Hi, I'm Dan. My pronouns are he, him. It's been a while since you've been on. I feel like we just had on Jordan, who's been a while. We were away for a year, so it's fine. I'm excited that you are back, and I'm super excited to talk about this today because I was so excited when you told me you had never seen it. Today, we're talking about Mystery Men, the 1999 film. Did you know this movie existed before this?
So in retrospect, I am aware that this movie existed, but I had never seen it. Mystery Men, I was like, I don't know what this is. And then I looked up the casting and I got really confused real quick because I was like, Ben Stiller, Greg Kinnear, what, like Hank Azaria. I was like, this is a really weird cast for me not to like know anything about this movie. And I watched it and I was like, I don't know what this is until that like pool party, and I was like, is this the music video for All Stars like by Smash Mouth? And I got really confused.
I think this was like the first one for Smash Mouth because Shrek came out after this.
Yes. So I'm gonna try to describe this film to viewers as best as I can. So this is how it's gonna go. You have a movie with Ben Stiller and his little ragtag group of friends who have like the world's just mundane superpowers, such as Ben's he gets really angry and he can smash some things, but he doesn't turn into the Hulk. So it kind of feels just, okay, like you're just an angry guy. And Hank Azaria's character, the Blue Raja, is very good at throwing cutlery. He could throw knives. He could throw forks really well, but he can't throw knives. Anyways, and they stumble upon this like superhero who goes missing, and they decide that they're going to be real heroes now and try to save the day. And it goes horribly wrong at every turn. And it's on. It's just on. But that's the movie. It's just a bunch of guys with some weird powers coming together to save the day, and they just are horrible at it, and it's a train wreck, and that's the movie.
That is a brilliant back of the box blurb. I am really impressed with that. I know you were nervous about it, but that was a great description of the film.
That's the best way I could put it. I don't know what else to say.
It is wild this film exists. Just like looking at it in general, you're like, wait, like what? Like how did this come to be? So a little bit of background on this. Mystery Men is a 1999 film directed by Kinka Usher. This was their first feature. He also, before this, was a commercial director, and the entire Taco Bell dog series, like the Chihuahua, that's all him. Like he did all of that. So very weird to go from the Taco Bell dog to a full feature-length film. It was written by Neil Cuthbert. It was also loosely based on Bob Burden's Flaming Carrot comics. I have not read them. I'm going to because I have tried to get some. But like it's literally a giant carrot that is flaming. It's a giant, the head is just a carrot. It's wild to see because the film, nothing like that. The film stars, and this is a absolutely bonkers list of people: Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, William H. Macy, Greg Kinnear, Claire Fernali, Kel Mitchell, Paul Reubens, Janine Garofalo, Wes Studi, Jeffrey Rush, Lena Ollins, Susie Izzard, and Tom Waits. Tom Waits.
The Tom Waits.
Like,
wow. It's just there.
There's so many scenes where I'm like, what? How did this happen? And then today I was doing some research and I found out that Danny DeVito was actually in talks to direct and star in it, but negotiations broke down over who could produce the soundtrack. Danny DeVito said it was a big deal for him and he really wanted it, but he had to walk away. And then Ben Stiller was approached to rewrite the script and direct it, but he turned it down and he just decided he didn't want to do it because it was too much for him. It was a huge movie to be taking on. It's just wild to think of Danny DeVito in this film, but him as a director is awesome. Have you ever seen Death to Smoochie?
No, I haven't.
It's another movie I'm probably going to get you to watch. It's like, imagine Barney the dinosaur, but with a mafia story.
I'm into it.
And
I'm sold.
Ed Norton is a vegan who plays Barney and gets hunted by Robin Williams.
You said Edward Norton, say no more.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Great film. But the director, they did a lot of unscripted stuff. They're kind of just free to kind of do what they want. And they really just change the script all the time. But what do you think are like, what's like the major theme of this film?
I think like self-acceptance in a weird way is a big theme of this film. And I also think like justice is such a weird like theme because it's like Batman does justice, right? But it doesn't look the same as like Superman's justice, right? Like they're different, but like in Mystery Men, it's more so like the justice of the underdog, you know, it's that the theme of like, hey, I've been at it for this long and I should get like my credit where it's due. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, yeah, because like I find it a bit difficult to be like, oh, well, they're all like altruistic, because I think while they all want to help people, I think the movie is very much this sort of tongue-in-cheek like look at what superheroes are, which is crazy because it came out in 1999. Like I thought a lot about The Boys and Batman while watching this movie, because it's clear that they're like in this like post-apocalyptic sort of, not a post-apocalyptic, that's not the right word. It's like this like post, like
it's hard to describe because it's like the Schumacher Batman. I feel like, so this came out a little bit after Batman and Robin, which is a great movie. So like a lot of like that is in this. Also, do you have a cat?
Yes, he's meowing, but he's downstairs.
No, it's okay.
So sorry.
No. I'm not about that at all. Your door opened behind you and no one walked in. That's why I asked.
Yeah, he's actually staring at me right now. He just opened the door. Silly boy.
Okay. That's why I was like, because I'm like sitting here like reading the script and I looked over and your door is like slowly opening. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I guess he just opened the door. Oh well.
Nice. He loves Mystery Men. So who would you recommend this movie to? Like out of your friends, like what type of person do you think is going to enjoy this?
Okay, so I have to caveat, but like I think anyone who's willing to kind of endure some like dated humor and like because there's like that aspect of the movie that's like, I think the movie is clearly making fun of like the ideas of like sexism and misogyny, and I think it tackles them in a really funny way, but I think out of context they may not rub people the right way. So like first and foremost, it's like that meme of like, y'all got to get cool with some really weird things like real quickly, like at the jump.
Yeah.
And other than that, I think anyone who's just like, who is into like satire, who's into like really campy movies, who's into just like odd, like dated films, I think one of the things that struck me the most while watching Mystery Men, it's like it has all of the qualities where you're like, this is surely a cult favorite. This is surely something that is like has a very dedicated fan base. The people who love it, the people who hate it, hate it. And it'd be hard to convince like most people to like see what there is to appreciate in it. So I think if you're a fan of like general of cult movies, if you're willing to kind of look past some of the weird CGI and like maybe some of the jokes that may not like land perfectly, I think you have at the heart of it just like this really weird movie that is just kind of astounding to have lasted in like pop culture and to have even been made, if I'm being quite frank.
Yes.
I'm surprised this even
so
exists.
Weird. It is
It's so odd.
The thing about it that caught me rewatching it now, because I think I saw it in theaters when I was a kid. Like, probably shouldn't have seen it when I was a child, or maybe I rented it from Blockbuster, but I specifically remember watching this film when I was young. Watching it now, there's like a lot of tropes in this that don't appear in like that era's movies, but like the MCU, like I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, this is like where they walk out and their new costume gets revealed, like the big final fight costume change, like all this stuff that has become so commonplace because superhero movies are like everywhere. It feels weird that this came out before all of that, because this, like, if you put this out today, it would be like Scary Movie, but for like superhero movies. It would just be that satire, like the best. I think Scary Movie is one of the best because like I haven't watched it in a long time, but like they really got in on the satire and like they made a lot of money off of it. But you are right that this is a cult hit because it bombed financially.
Okay,
like,
yeah, I'd assume.
No money. It like nowhere near what it cost to make. But I don't know if it has a huge fan base. It's not like what was that other one that's sort of like this? Galaxy Quest, which has a huge fan base. It's a better movie also, I think, if I remember Galaxy Quest all that well. But you can get this anywhere you can get streaming. Like if you can rent movies, it is on Blu-ray, so you can actually buy physical copies, or you can go to your local library. Some libraries may have it. But we are going to start talking spoilers. I forgot to say this is part of the Capes and Cowards season. This Capes and Cowards episode makes total sense because that's what these people are. And we will see you after the jump. All right. So all right, give me your like thoughts about the movie now that you can talk spoilers. Like I want to hear what you thought.
This movie was legitimately such a weird thing to watch. Like, I'm being so honest, when I was not I think I was expecting something schlocky and something like maybe in the realm of parroting like superheroes. And I kind of thought maybe it would be like a Justice League sort of like knockoff or something, because it's like 1999. You don't really have a lot of like superhero movies the way that we do now, but you still had your like Batmans and like some of your animated shows and stuff. So I thought it was gonna like kind of be that. So to my surprise, to realize that it was a very clear sort of like satire of superheroes, where like you have Greg Kinnear, whose name is like, was it like Captain Awesome or something like that, or Captain Amazing, something
completely generic, which rules.
Yeah. And he's like sponsored by Pepsi, and he like loses his sponsorship, and he's so good at like fighting crime
Captain
that
Amazing.
There's no Captain Amazing. Okay. He's so good at like fighting crime that there's like no crime left and he has to like fabricate like a villain scenario to like keep his lifestyle up. Like that sounds like something Garth Ennis would have been writing in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
But he was, yeah, and like he was writing The Boys I'm pretty sure The Boys
I think
maybe would have been written around the same time, or like in the early 2000s you're getting The Boys, right? But
uh
watching it, I was so like, oh my God, I've seen this before. Or like even One Punch Man, the idea like someone is so good at fighting crime that there's like no crime left. It's like that One Punch Man is like adjacent to that idea, right? Like he's
The Boys
so
is
strong.
2006. So
Oh,
like
really?
almost 8 years
Jeez.
after. Yeah.
Well, then I retroactively
Yeah,
take back what I
but it
said, and I
feels
say,
like it could have been an Ennis book if
yeah,
they took all the violence out for the movie. Um, it just doesn't. It feels like it doesn't. It feels like it was made and exist in the wrong time period.
yeah. That's what I'm trying to convey is that I could see so many tropes that have evolved into their own things in like the last decade of pop culture and of cinema and television. And this movie was made in 1999, and all of the seedlings for those ideas are rooted in this movie, like all of them.
Yeah,
Like it touched almost everything I could imagine any property now is like critiquing superheroes for. I that was like what was the most mind like
yeah,
like crushing for me, that I was just like, this is so ahead of its time. When I Googled Usher, the director, um, and realized and saw that this was the only movie he had done because this like flopped so hard. I was like kind of sad because I was like, I wonder what you could have done if like 10 years later someone decided to give you a different script and said, "Hey, do something like what you did then."
yeah.
Like I'm sure it would have been cool to see something he's done like 5 years ago, even today. So I think for me, that was like the most jarring and like weirdest part about watching this movie.
It is. It is. It does stink that Kinga never went on to make anything else. Because like, I would love to see more of this. I think he did go back to commercials.
Mm.
I'm not sure what he's doing now, but it's just a movie that like when Captain Awesome appears for the first time, or Captain Amazing, you're like, okay, Homelander. Like that's what you think
Yeah.
of.
Hmm.
I love the idea, like the fabricating crime, because like I love that weird shit. Like I love like seeing I don't love sponsorship, but like I love seeing like a world like how do superheroes pay their bills if they're not like balancing a 9 to 5, like all the other like tropes. But it's like, no, they're making their money doing this. So like they're gonna throw like the Pepsi logo or all that kind of stuff, like Booster Gold type stuff. I
Hmm.
love seeing that explored, especially with like the Superman type character.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, which I think is what makes Ben Stiller and his team, which eventually gets dubbed like the Mystery Men. They don't have like an official team name until the end, by the way. Spoiler alert, which I think is funny because it's
What
like
does he
that's
say the Super Seven, like some shitty name?
yeah, like
Ugh.
something ridiculous. Whereas like I, it almost reminds me of like My Hero Academia, where it's like some people are just born like like really good at something, but it's like kind of weird. So it's kind of reminds me of Quirks a little bit in that regard, which is still also kind of ahead of its time. The fact that like William H. Macy's character is just really good at shoveling. He's like the best shoveler. Like, and that's his thing. He fights crime and hits people with shovels. Like,
Yep.
it's so ridiculous and it's so elevated to this level of absurdity that it's hard not to just get like completely sucked into like this real weird world, because like the set designs are kind of cray. Like they're like this fusion of like cyberpunk and like post-apocalyptic like mashed together in these like really weird ugly colors. And like Tom Waits is in the movie and he just like lives in this like weird scrapyard just making shit. Like
Does he live in like a
it's
old carnival house too?
yeah,
Like,
like it's
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
weird.
But like the inside, it like looks like he just like lives
Yeah.
amongst like the scraps of things. It's like everything about the movie is calls for this sort of like, it's clearly satire, it's clearly camp, it's clearly like making fun of what this genre like is going to eventually be, and no one watched it, and no one cared, and no one really talks about it, and but it exists, and it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by this movie.
Truly. And there's so many like parts of this movie that like confuse me after watching it. Like the set design itself, looking and thinking about it today, it was like, oh, Schumacher. Like Schumacher made these two Batman movies that were fucking. I like those. I like Schumacher's Batmans more than I like Tim Burton's because it is a very weird gay take on Batman. It is like everything is over the top. The city is neon. Like it's so weird. And this you can see it's clearly inspired. Everything is inspired by Batman, but they have at the beginning you see the city and it looks like Blade Runner, but with all of these blimps. And I'm like, okay, that's Gotham. But it none of it feels like anything else that came out, even because the only other big superhero movie that like kind of started the genre back is Blade. And that came right around this time. So it's not like this was like parodying anything. And it just I love this movie. Like I hadn't seen it in years until I was like, oh, we should do this because it's so weird and people need to see it. Um, it's also this is the only time I remember seeing it as a kid and be like, oh my god, that's Kel from Kenan and Kel. This is like the only other movie I've really seen him in, other than like stuff with Kenan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So for viewers out there, his character, um, his superpower is that he can turn invisible, but like only if no one is looking at him. And if you look at him, then he won't be invisible anymore. Or if he sees himself in a mirror, he won't be invisible now. But he totally is invisible when you're not looking at him. So I just needed everyone to know that.
It's like a super specific power. And I love how they worked it into the movie where like the ones like the thing can't scan if it can't see you and he like gets through it. It's just like again, like I don't know if it's the greatest movie I've ever seen, but it might be because like everything just fits and there's such a big heart to all of these characters. And you mentioned William H. Macy's character. Is it Shoveler? His power is shovel.
Yeah.
Like that, like his job is shovel. He's got a wife and 3 children, totally normal family with like a house and a pool and like, but at night he goes out with his son's umpire outfit on because she's like, he's gonna need it for his game this weekend. He's like, I bought it for me. It's like, but his power is shovel. There's like shovels on the wall in his family house. And I'm just like, this is so fucking funny that his wife's just like, oh, fuck, he's doing it again. And she threatens to leave him multiple times because like he's going out and being a quote unquote superhero, but he has no powers. He just shuffles good.
Yeah,
Like,
I think there's a line where she's like, he's like, you know how it is, babe. I'm fighting crime out there, like I have to use my shoveling powers, for good. And she's like, and that you do well. You're the best shoveler. And the only 2 things that you're good at aside from that is being a good husband and a good father. Nothing else, nothing more. And I was like, damn, she's tired of his ass. Like, she's like, stop it. She's like, please, like, babe, I'm begging you. Stop going out and shoveling like crime. Like nothing's happening. And I think something else that's fascinating is that their whole team has been like doing this for like what, like a decade?
Yeah. And they've done nothing.
And they've done nothing.
It
absolutely nothing.
I think the shoveler is probably my favorite. He's got a great line when they're like going to storm the cast, like to storm the villains at the end. We'll talk about the villains in a minute. But it is such a hokey. Oh, here it is. I wrote it down. They're going to like burst through the gates in their super cool vehicle that Tom Waits built them. And he says, we've got a blind date with Destiny. And it looks like she's ordered the lobster. I'm like, that fucking rules. Like, it's so goofy.
I actually was so confused by that because I paused the movie and I like asked, like someone, I was just like, have you ever heard this phrase before? They're like, well, yeah. But they're like, don't you know about that thing about like when you go on a first date with someone and they order the lobster? And I was just like, this is so crazy that this movie in 1999 is like just so goofy that they like combine these two things and like it just doesn't sound right to like the current era
Yeah.
and like this day and age. Like it just sounds so like, huh? Like what is he saying? But it was like so funny in its delivery that I was like jostled. I was just like, oh, that was like it stuck out to me that line very clearly.
Yeah, like the dialogue is so well done. Like it's very funny, and there's like again, like there's nothing else like this anywhere because it's just weird. And a lot of the improv comes from all these comedians who are in it. But there's like so many good bits. Like before I say this quote, the bad guy's name is Casanova Frankenstein, which
Baller
fucking
name, by the way.
rules. He's played by Gregory Rush, right? Or Jeffrey
Yeah,
Rush,
Jeffrey Rush, yeah.
who's like a Oscar-winning actor.
Yeah, like so serious, like
Awesome.
Pirates of the Caribbean,
Oh yeah, he was Barbosa.
King's Speech,
Yeah,
like
that's
The
like
Book
King's
Thief,
Speech.
like Shakespeare in Love, like really serious sort of. I mean Shakespeare in Love is,
Yeah, it's goofy.
you know,
That's another movie.
that's a
Movies
little
like
bit
that don't
goofy,
happen
but
anymore. And
yeah.
I think it's a lot because like it's hard to make movies these days because like you don't know if you're going to get the money back and people can take less chances. So we don't get weird things like this. We mostly get like the AAA blockbusters and stuff because people know those are going to make money. But Mr. Furious is like, I'm Pantera's box. You don't want to open me. And Casanova Frankenstein, he's like, it's Pandora. Mr. Furious is like, don't correct me. It sickens me. And I'm like, it's so quippy and just like funny.
Yeah. We talk about how the villains were super into disco.
Oh yes. So good. And it's so out of nowhere too.
Yeah, I like the way that they set it up where it's like Casanova Frankenstein has been in jail for so long that like disco has died as a genre, which is like very telling of like the state of decline that their world has been in. Well, actually, no, it's the opposite. It's not like their world is in the state of decline in a bad way. It's like the state of their crime is in decline because Captain Amazing
That was
is
really
so good
good.
at his job that there is no crime. So this crazy guy is just locked up.
You just rhymed really
And
well. Just wanted to let you.
sorry,
No, it was good. That was really
I'm like
good.
spitting.
I
I'm
know.
cooking up here.
I'm really impressed about
And
Mystery Men. But keep
yeah,
going.
about mystery. Yeah. I could speak very intelligently about a few things, and Mystery Men is now one of them. And like when he gets out of jail, which that's like sort of fabricated. It's like they're only releasing Casanova Frankenstein because there needs to be crime in the city, and they're like, yeah, let's just see what he does in like a week, and then
Mr.
we'll deal
Amazing
with
has
it.
like his Bruce Wayne like thing. He just kind of struts and he's like, Captain Amazing wrote me this letter. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not how jail works.
Yeah, that's not how anything works, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets released, and he was just like, times have changed. They say disco is dead, and it's not. And I'm like, this is so funny. Like, this is just so weird and so like off-putting. Like, they're like a whole little like gang of just like disco lovers. Like, but it's just kind of
With
ridiculous.
incredible guns. Their guns are
Mhm.
incredible. I love gold-plated guns. Like I just think they're so gaudy. And it's like, why? You had to pay so much money to make it look that awful. Big fan. But
Yeah.
uh Susie Izzard, Tony P in the movie does, I think it's the dance from Dirty Dancing. Or not Dirty Dancing. What's the Boogie Night? Not Boogie Nights, different movie.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yes. That's the first
Yes.
dance. And it's like, what is this? What are we doing?
Yeah, I was like, this is such a like dated reference that like even in 1990, I'm like, would the youngins would have like caught on to that? Like, would it have been still in the like people talking about it enough. And so like watching it in 2024 for the first time, I'm just like, oh wow, what a throwback that is. The only reason I know what that's in reference to is because like my parents liked that movie.
Yeah. It's just,
So it's like it's
and
clear this movie doesn't like age well because it's like it sits in a very specific pocket of time where it's like if you don't know these people in reference to like cameos, if you don't know like this brand of humor that was like pretty specific and pretty time oriented, and if you're not aware of like the references that they're making in 1999 being so far removed from like that time, it's like I can't imagine most people watching it and like getting it.
I don't love that though. It's just like this weird thing. I don't think it does it any injustice. Like I just thought he was doing a cool disco dance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned that it was an actual thing. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that because I've never seen that. I've never seen that at all. But it's the villains. It's not just them because there's other gangs. Like you see a weird like red eye gang at the beginning, but then towards the end when Casanova Frankenstein is revealing like his master plan, he has all of these different gangs, which they're bonkers. My favorite one was the frat boys.
I like the frat boys.
It's just a group. The other ones, I think they might be a couple of them are racial stereotypes, and it's like, ugh. But the frat boys, led by Michael Bay, that's what got me. I was like, is that Michael Bay? And it turns out he's friends with the director. He hated doing this, though. He hated doing this because he doesn't like taking directions from other people, which is very funny.
Makes sense.
Because he's Michael Bay. And CeeLo Green is in that scene, and then
it's just the casual CeeLo Green pop up, and I was like, oh, he's just there. Okay.
I can't remember his name at the moment. You've seen Fast and Furious, right? Han.
Yeah, he was in there.
Yep, he's in that scene too. Which again, it's like, okay, cool, sure. There are a lot of cameos, and I know there was one that really excited you. When they're doing the tryouts.
It was so exciting. So for viewers out there, I have like a special fascination with like Dane Cook. I don't know. I thought he was like really cute when I was like in high school. Like I don't know. He was in that movie Employee of the Month with like Dax Shepard, and like I had a huge crush on like Dax Shepard when I was in high school as well. So I was like, oh my God, this is like a movie made for me, even though it's like it's not a great movie, but whatever. Who cares? So when they're doing the tryouts in William H. Macy's like pool, they're hosting this, like a barbecue, and like there's a pool and stuff like that, and they have like
what did they say? Like, a beer and kegs and pizza will get anyone anywhere.
And they have people like stand in line and like to show off their powers, and Dane Cook shows up with a hot waffle. Like, do you call that like a hot waffle iron? Like, is that?
Yeah, it was just a waffle iron because he calls himself the Waffler. Yeah,
and he's just like, I'm fighting crime with my waffle, and he has it like pressed to his face while it's sizzling, and he's just like, oh yeah, let's go. And I was just like, this is really weird. This is so ridiculous. And I was like, this was so weird. And then to my surprise, behind him is the Doug Jones of like Guillermo del Toro fame. Like that's Abe Sapien, right? Like he's the fish man in The Shape of Water. Like that's like he was just there with a kid, and he was like, my name is Pencilhead, and me and my kid are race crime. And I was like, I'm deceased. I was like, I'm gone. This movie is a 10 out of 10. Don't care. I saw Dane Cook and Doug Jones back to back. Like, life is good.
Do you think anyone really has powers except Janine Garofalo? And Kel. I mean, Kel. I was getting mixed up because like Keenan and Kel in my head are inseparable in naming conventions. I loved that show.
Yeah, but, Invisible Boy.
Yeah, Invisible Boy. Him and Janine Garofalo are the only ones I think actually have powers.
Yeah, because like one of the things that I found really funny is that Ben Stiller's like kind of like the leader of this group and he's named Mr. Furious, but he's not like the Hulk. Like he doesn't rage out and like get super strength and like, turns into a monster and like is able to like fight. He gets so mad that he just breaks stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you and like every Kyle that like has ever had a monster and like lost a game in like Call of Duty. Like,
Yep.
like I was like virtually like in like that's virtually the same thing, but he's just really good at like breaking things when he's
Not even.
was,
He's like always getting hurt.
yeah, true. Yeah. Like oh yeah, because he has like that giant like
Yeah.
dent in his forehead at the start of the movie.
At one point, he meets a girl in the film, but like he just feels happy and he's not furious. So like,
Mhm.
there's like a 5 minute thing where they have to like try to pump him up and make him mad again, and they're all just mocking him.
Yeah,
Like
they're all just making fun of him.
that scene. Hank Azaria in that scene is very funny because he makes fun of how he dresses, but it's like
Mhm.
you dress like the Blue Raja, like that's
Mhm.
hilarious. But yeah, Ben Stiller is really funny in this. What were you gonna say?
Yes. Um, honestly, I could see a lot of like Zoolander sort of like
Yeah,
mannerisms in Ben Stiller in this movie. I think Zoolander is really cool because like I think Ben Stiller is really talented and I think he's a very interesting comedy actor. And I love Zoolander so much because like you don't really see him do things exactly like in that vein, but I saw glimpses of that in his like performance for Mr. Furious. And I just like loved that. It made me really happy.
what has Ben Stiller done recently?
I don't know, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty or whatever.
I didn't see
Actually,
that.
I think that was like 10 years ago. Actually, I'm not sure.
Might have been 10 years ago. Sorry now. Oh, Severance. He was an executive producer.
Oh,
I
okay.
knew he did something big in the past couple of years. But he's great in it. So it was written by Neil Cuthbert. I just wanted to point that out. Neil Cuthbert also wrote another very weird movie called The Adventures of Pluto Nash with Eddie Murphy. Also a huge bomb. But he also wrote the screenplay for Hocus Pocus.
Oh, that's so weird
Yeah.
and very, very odd. Because like Hocus Pocus is great, but the other ones, like I haven't even heard of the other one, and I also
Pluto
like
Nash is
I don't know,
weird.
just a man of many talents,
Yeah,
maybe.
but he didn't write much else either. But uh who else? Oh, the Jeannie Garofalo character, the bowler
Mhm. She just has a magic bowling ball.
with her dad's skull inside of it, which like visually rocks.
Yeah, it's kind
Uh,
of
because
badass.
Hank Azaria asks her, "So you're to tell me that you put your dad's head into a bowling ball?" And she goes, "No, the guy at the pro shop did." I was like,
Yeah.
"That is very funny." Could you imagine
Yeah,
like taking the skull of someone, and be like, "Hey, can you put this in a bowling ball for me?"
her whole character is interesting because like all of the other women have like this like weird misogyny humor around them, and she does too, but like it's like the 90s, so she gets like treated like one of the boys.
Hmm.
So her character to me was so interesting because she was like that bitch archetype, but they never like called her a bitch. They were just like, okay, well, she's kind of scary, and they like leave her be. They're like, she's got a magic bowling ball. Like, we're not messing with her. Like,
Yeah, they
oh,
kind of know
she's
it's good for
deadly.
her. She's the only one who can't
Yeah,
even do anything. So like, what are you gonna do? Because she shows up
yeah.
at the end, and I think what's his Mr. Furious is kind of jealous of her because she actually has powers. Uh, how do you like Hank Azaria like as an like what do
I
you know Hank Azaria from? Because like everyone has like their different place.
for me, I feel very fondly about him in the birdcage.
Yep, that same. I didn't know. So I've watched Simpsons my whole life, but I didn't know he was Mo Sizlak until
Hmm.
later in life. But I did know that he was the housekeeper for the Birdcage.
Yeah, which is a phenomenal movie. Anyone who is out there, if you want to watch a really awesome, very gay movie with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane and Hank Azaria, go watch The Birdcage. That's my 2 cents on
It's
that. But
It is such a good. It's funny. The funny reason is why I've watched it. My very Republican grandmother has always loved this movie, and she was the one who showed to me. But it's funny now looking back. I'm like, it's wild that she was like really into this movie back then, and now it's how everyone is. But God, we'll do the Birdcage one day. I
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
love that movie. But yeah, go on about Hank Azaria.
So Hank Azaria in this movie gives me the ick, but it's so Hank Azaria's character puts on this like British accent, right? And he's not actually British. It's the whole thing. Like when he's home with his mom, he like speaks to her normally, and he's just, I don't know, coddled, and he comes from like an affluent like household where he's just allowed to like collect like decadent trinkets, and his room is just
His
like
room is
very
wild.
much just, yeah, it's very much like a stereotype of like someone who has like colonized like the aesthetics of
Mhm.
a like a different cultures, like particularly like the British like Indian like relations.
Mhm.
And it's really hard because I think that they're clearly making fun of that, but they indulge in it like too much. Like his superhero name is like the Blue Raja, and like his superpower is that he's really good at like throwing like spoons and forks and stuff. He has like really precise aim, but he like dresses up in like a turban, and like it's like
Yeah.
all just odd. Like it's all just weird. Like the pieces don't make sense, and I don't understand why they did that because he's funny in the role. Like he legitimately is great. He gives a great performance, but it all just feels not good.
Yeah, it does feel very weird, like what they're doing. He wears his mother's he wears like a throw blanket for a lot of
Mhm.
the movie. But the turban thing is very weird. It's like, ooh. Right. I
Mhm.
do like that he only throws forks and spoons and not
Mhm.
knives, because the knives would be deadly. And he's like, I don't
Mhm.
want to hurt anybody. It's like, but you're a superhero. Like, it does come with the territory. And there's a bunch of gags about people sitting on forks and getting hit in the butt with forks, which works on me because I kind of love slapstick stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like a really funny like like just zoomed in ass shot of like him sitting on one of his own forks, and he goes like, "Yeah, well, sure, whatever." And I was just like, haha. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, his whole thing is kind of weird. You know who does rule in this movie?
So
Paul Rubin.
Paul Reubens, my little stinky boy,
He just farts.
he just farts.
My
He
little
looks,
stinky boy.
yeah, my little stinky boy, Paul Reubens. He was a delight in this. I like when he showed up, I was just like, I love him. This is amazing. This is perfect. Yeah, he's just like a stinky little guy just farting everywhere, trying to like, I think it's funny because it's like not only does he like have like nuclear levels of like, I don't know, like fart juice when he like like releases it, it makes everyone around him just like collapse. But like knowing this, and he still like has like that sort of like slapsticky humor of like, why don't you pull my finger and see what happens? Like I loved it.
I
It
love
was
how
so
often he does
ridiculous.
that. His
Yeah.
whole bit, like Paul Rubin, like as his whole comedy was so good at just like being offbeat. Like Pee
Hmm.
Wee. I loved Pee Wee so much as a kid. And that's why I think I may have seen this movie because Pee Wee was in it. Um, but it's just like he does it so well in this. Like when he gets hit with Tom Waits' a portable tornado, like he's up in the
Hmm.
air and he's doing the Pee Wee like ah, and it's
Hmm.
like fucking love him. I wish he got to do more. I really do.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I'm
uh
surprised that they don't use him as much. He's actually just kind of like a little side throwaway character.
and they don't like him either.
Yeah.
He like they don't want him to sit with, so they go to a diner after they like fail being superheroes every night, but he like scoots himself into the chair like with them. He's like just a very funny part of the movie. Also, the Sphinx, who's like the only other real superhero who kind of teaches them, is played by Wes Studi, who is like a very um he's like a really well-known actor. He was in Dances with Wolves. He was in a lot of Academy Award-winning films, but he's like really big on he's a Native American, he's Cherokee Nation, and like a lot of his movies deal with that stuff. He was in Avatar too, I think. But like his character in this, I don't know if it was a stereotype that he was playing or like what it was, but like he felt like a classic like pulp character, like from
Mhm.
comics. And it turns out he is. Like the Sphinx is a public domain character that I had no idea existed.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I remember watching it because I watched it a few days ago. And I remember being like, I don't know what the bit is here because I was like, he actually
Yeah.
just seems like a guy that's like that. And it does like kind of lean into some of those like tropes of like, like wise mentor and like,
Mm.
spiritual and like sort of like, these antidotes that are like supposed to be like guiding and nurturing. But it makes sense now that like if he was a public domain character, it explains his character in the film way more because I couldn't like really suss it out for
Yeah, I
myself.
couldn't figure out what his bit was. He does have some good lines. Like he who questions training only trains himself at asking questions. And like at one point, Ben Stiller's trying to teach himself how to like control his fury. And he's like, okay, yeah, I get why you're training me, but why do I have watermelon on my feet? And like the camera pans down and Ben Stiller has like cutouts in watermelons with his feet in them. And the Sphinx is like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I didn't tell you to do that," and just walks away. And I was like, what? Like it was that's maybe one of the weirdest bits in the movie. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but it's like it seems that this movie, it's hard for me to like discern whether this comedy is in bad faith or not, because like that scene in particular was one of the ones where it's like, I think they're in on the bit and they're trying to like subvert the comedy of like the tropes and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if it like lands or and if it did land, if it landed back then, I would not know, but like being removed
Hmm.
from that and looking at it through this current lens, it's like you said, it's just hard to be like, huh? Like it's just a little like head scratching. Like I'm not sure what the gag is
Yeah,
here.
I think that scene is a reference to like some old skit or something I was reading. And I was like, I don't really understand. Like again, it's just out of time. It's just like, what is this? And it's funny because
Mhm.
like his feet are in watermelon. That is what I got from that. It wasn't, I didn't like read too much into it. It may have been what they are going for. Like you don't really know, but
Yeah, and I think that's like the more puzzling and interesting part of this movie where you're like, they
just
had a
go for it.
vision and they did it.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of movies. It feels like there's too many cooks. Like there's so many like people working on all of it, but like it just kind of worked for me in the end. I was like, oh, yeah, all right. I will watch this movie again.
Mhm.
Um, what were other things in the movie that you wanted to like get into?
I loved that okay, now this is like a mega spoiler for the people listening in. And if you want to watch it, I'm so sorry. But like, I hate to say it, but our mystery man actually like kills the person they're trying to save.
Oh my
And that
fucking god!
whole scene is just like hair pulling in the like annoyance I have for them as like as a team. Cause like it happens pretty late in the movie, like it's like I would say that's like the last 30 minutes of the movie that like kicks off the last act of it. And
Mhm.
you're like rooting for them, even though like you kind of don't really have a reason to other than like you want to see them like succeed at something. And then they pull that and you're just like, man, oh man, y'all are something else. Like seeing and like the way that the person that they're trying to save dies, he's like turned into like burnt chicken nuggets. Like he is gone. Like he's obliterated. Like it's nasty to look at. Like it was just like I was kind of shocked because I was like, oh, like body horror for a second. What's what?
Like
I don't know how you felt about it, but I was like,
okay. I know you have. I love that scene. I think it is the absolute funniest fucking thing to happen that this group of dumbasses has like risked their lives. Like they are not superheroes. They don't have the training, they don't have the backing, they don't have the money. They have put their lives on the line to save the world. to save the world and save the big hero. And then they accidentally kill the hero because they're arguing about which switch to flip. It is just comedy fucking gold. Like, it's like, oh, I can flip this one. And then they're like arguing back and forth. And then I think Hank Azaria is the one who flips it. And he goes, well, he told me to flip it. And like what you said, the body horror, his death is like actual horror. It's like his face is like ripping and like shredding. And I was like, that fucking rules. And that's what they were going to do to the world. I loved
it.
Yeah.
And
I was so out of nowhere.
And it's so funny because like the villains, like Casanova is like, I'm going to show you what my plans are for world domination. And it starts with taking care of this person. And when they go into the room and see that he's like dead, at first he's like, I don't know. But then he's like, you know what? Doesn't matter if the dude's dead. Let's party. And I was just like, honestly, I respect the hustle.
Yeah.
Like the whole situation, it felt like an Arrested Development, like
this
bit.
Is the Arrested Development of superhero movies. It's just like so like a lot of the jokes are dry and it's like, okay. Go ahead.
That reminds me, the way this movie is shot is also very like jarring.
Yes.
Like it's shot in ways where it's like you like, because now that we're talking about like Arrested Development, it does a lot of those like weird pull up like zoom ins on like the characters and you see their facial expressions and it's like way too crisp and like the camera angles kind of morph so everything looks a little distorted on top of like the set pieces being already kind of like feeling detached from the real world and like you're in this whole new sort of cyberpunky like Schumacher-esque kind of like Gotham City like clone, and to have these like very like sitcom-y sort of like paneling to like each character while they're making these jokes and bits, but they're delivering it so dry and like it was an odd experience.
Yeah, the directing is a little weird. Like, I like it, but it's like a lot of it, it's like, oh, those are like, like it's jarring.
Yeah, it's like too close for comfort. It's like, I don't need to be able to see Ben Stiller's pores like this.
Ben Stiller's 1999 pores.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is no.
Yeah, the whole thing is just, it's a weird thing. It's a weird movie, just in general. The fact that it happened is, again, there's nothing like it now. Trying to think of like other things in the movie that I really wanted to touch on. I really want to read the comic. I really want to see like what this looked like before it was on the big screen. Because again, a giant flaming carrot head is the main character of that. So Casanova Frankenstein, badass. I think he fights somebody with his pinky nail. Like he just has super long weird nails for some reason, which rules. Like it just rules for that character. It wears like a cloak. I really like this movie, and like it's just so weird.
Yeah, I'd say like all in all, I liked it. I will watch it again. Like if someone was like, "Hey, do you want to watch this?" I'd be like, "Yes." I wouldn't shy away from it or anything like that. And I think everything we described, I think that's like incentive enough that I think people like should at least like
try
view it once and should at least try, because it's just, I don't know how you could like superheroes and not like ponder a lot of the ideas that's presented in this movie that like maybe, like you said, with all the cooks in the oven, it doesn't produce like the prettiest or the smartest or the funniest.
It looks like cool as shit though,
outcome too, but it works somehow. Like it pulls itself together, and it's just like such an interesting movie.
It really is. My last thing is there is one quote, and I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard because it's again so weird. But the shoveler, Blue Raja, and Mr. Furious are like, we need to recruit heroes to help us. So they go to get Invisible Boy. And they hear that he's this big hero, and they show up to his house, and he's like a teenager. And they're like, are you? And he goes, yeah. And he's like, come on in. And he walks in, and he's going through the house, and his dad is sitting on the couch, and the camera is panned from like below the dad looking up at the couch and like his whatever weird shit's on his table. And Invisible Boy goes, hey dad, I'm just going to go into my room with three strange men. And the dad doesn't
Yeah.
move, doesn't make a peep, nothing. I was like, that is fucking hilarious. Like,
Yeah, I remember being like, "Oh
sure.
my God, did they just say that?"
Yeah, it's like, all right. Hey, Dad,
And you're
get over
like,
three strange men. All right.
yeah, and it's just like it feels like they were given a bigger budget than they needed to have. So
Oh,
like any
100%.
small idea that they had, they did. They're like, yes, let's do it. Who cares? And I kind of love that because like you said, like you don't see movies like this. And I think knowing the state of cinema and understanding like how superhero movies have unfortunately kind of derailed like the entire industry and has like aided in the financing situation that like artists are dealing with now where like you said like studios aren't going to be taking big risks on weird movies like Mystery Men because like they need to be able to guarantee like some sort of profit margin to their executive producers and stuff like that. Like they need to be able to guarantee that like their movie won't flop to a certain degree
Yeah.
because otherwise it'll never take off unless it's like completely self-funded. And I think it's just refreshing to be like there used to be a time where like movies can be risky and be weird and like be kind of just silly and fun because you really the cinema is a lot different now and you just the aesthetics of it, the branding of it, the peculiarness of Mystery Men is so distinct that nothing looks like it, nothing will ever look like it probably. And it's kind of a shame that it like died in its in its like release and it's like a shame that there hasn't been someone trying to like be like besides
Do
you
something.
besides that's like hey y'all let's watch this.
Yeah, I need to make the next Mystery Men. But
Yeah.
it's funny because I'm looking at the IMDb right now, but if you scroll down, you always have like the more like this. The first one is Evolution. Have you ever seen Evolution?
Yes, I have with David Duchovny. I'm a big
Yeah.
David Duchovny guy.
Very weird movie.
Yeah, and
Galaxy,
I love that movie.
Yeah, so do I. When they it's got Stifler in it too. They fight it with like I don't want to ruin Evolution for anybody, but I might watch that tonight. Galaxy Quest. Dogma. Have you ever seen Dogma?
Yeah, strange Kevin Smith movie.
Super. It's literally about two angels coming down to like kill people. It's like very weird. There's these like the movies that they're like suggesting to me are the late 90s Austin Powers, like movies that people love, but like I don't think they're like making like it's just weird movies. And some of them are better than others, but I'm glad you've seen Evolution. There was also a cartoon that also ruled. It was a big Evolution head as a kid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
The cartoon. Yeah, Dogma was odd, but you know, we stand Ben Affleck in this house, so doing my due diligence.
Fucking love Ben Affleck.
Yeah, but you're right though, because like I know Galaxy Quest has a cult following. I know anything Kevin Smith has like huge fan bases. Dogma may not be like the front and center bread and butter of like Kevin Smith's
the thing is,
branding.
You can't see Dogma. They don't have it on you. They do not make. You cannot get it on streaming. You cannot get it on DVDs. You can't. It's wild.
Yeah, it's like I think I saw it on television like back in the day, and I think like I think my parents might have the DVD of it from like when it was released.
That is worth a lot. Just a heads up.
Yeah, you know, and that's the only reason I've seen that movie. But like, yeah, that's like not like a Kevin Smith movie people talk about. When people do talk about it, the first words out of most people's mouth is like, that movie's weird if they have had the chance to like see it because it is really inaccessible. Or like, and Austin Powers is like across the board, people love that movie. Like everyone knows what you're talking about. Like there was 3 of them and Beyonce was in the 3rd one. Like, and then you have Mystery Men just chilling.
Yeah, but even like Galaxy Quest is such a weird concept. Like it's just like a world where the stars of a Star Trek like show got into space to help people. Fucking love that movie. I might watch that in Evolution tonight, have a back-to-back. But again, like these movies, some of them landed really well. And I just don't think that I think Mystery Men could have been one of those movies, but I just don't think it landed at the right time.
I think the world wasn't ready for it yet. I think people don't appreciate the humor of it. And I don't even mean this in like a weird, like hipstery way. I think you were right when you said that this movie was made at the wrong time.
Yeah, it was. And if it got made later with the not inappropriate, like the poor humor,
Mhm.
it would be it might be even bigger now. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's all I've got about the Mystery Men.
Yeah, me too. I'm all mystery men out.
You can join us again next week for our finale of Caves and Cowards, where we're going to be covering Minor Threats with a audio drama and other stuff. But you can find us at gatecrashers.fan for all reviews, analysis, and all the other stuff we do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
The Gatecrashers.